The key is cold in her hand. It feels ancient, a sliver of brass and iron that holds the weight of a history she does not yet understand. Stay with me to the end. Subscribe. Drop the word "stay" in the comments. Liam O'Connell runs a damp cloth over the stainless steel countertop. The motion is practiced, a slow circular scrub that erases the morning's crumbs. His daughter, Maya, sits at the small kitchen table. She is 7 years old, a universe of quiet observation contained in a small frame. She holds a crayon, the color of a summer sky, and draws careful circles on a piece of paper. The house is small, perched on a cliff, overlooking the moody gray of the North Atlantic. It smells of salt, damp wood, and the faint clean scent of motor oil that clings to Liam's hands no matter how hard he scrubs. He places a glass of milk next to a drawing. He does not speak, she does not look up. This is their language, a tapestry woven from silence and shared space. He moves to the window and looks out at the churning water. His gaze is steady, the look of a man who understands the patience of tides. He is a widower, a father, and a guardian of things most people have forgotten. His work is in a large converted boathouse down a winding path from the house. It is a place of order and precision, of tools hung on pegboards in perfect silhouette and engines dismantled to their essential truths. Today, however, he is not in his workshop. He is in Warehouse 7, a cavernous, dusty building on the industrial outskirts of the city. It belongs to Vance Marine, a company he no longer officially works for, but is still bound to by a promise. Dust motes dance in the weak light filtering through grimy clerestory windows. Under a series of heavy canvas tarps rest the prototypes. They are engines, 5 of them, the culmination of a life's work, his life and the life of Robert Vance. Liam pulls back a corner of one tarp. The engine beneath is a sculpture of aluminum and steel, its turbocharger a dense, complex spiral, VNC001. The first one, the one that proved it was possible. He runs a hand over the cold metal, a gesture of reverence. The sound of heels on concrete echoes through the vast space. It is a sharp, impatient sound, an intrusion. A woman appears at the far end of the aisle. She is flanked by a man in a suit that is too sharp, too eager. Liam recognizes the man, Marcus Thorne, the company's CO. He does not recognize the woman, but he knows who she must be. Elara Vance, Robert's daughter, the new CEO. She stops 20 feet away, her arms crossed. Her face is a mask of cool authority, but her eyes hold the brittle exhaustion of recent grief. Liam has seen that look before, in his own mirror. "Marcus, what is all this?" she asks, her voice cutting through the silence. It is a voice accustomed to immediate answers. "Old projects, Miss Vance," Marcus says, a note of dismissive deference in his tone. "Dead ends. Your father kept them for sentimental reasons." Elara's gaze sweeps over the shrouded forms. "And him?" she asks, nodding toward Liam. Liam stands perfectly still. He lets the tarp fall back into place. "That's O'Connell," Marcus says, the name coated in a thin veneer of contempt. "Just a holdover. He tinkers with this old junk." Elara takes a few steps closer. She looks at Liam not as a person, but as an item on a long and irritating checklist. "This facility costs us $40,000 a month to maintain," she states. It is not a question. "Yes, Miss Vance. For what? A museum of failure?" Liam's jaw remains soft. His hands hang loose at his sides. He watches her, his expression unreadable. "I want it cleared," she says, her voice final. "All of it. Send it to the scrapyard and terminate his access. We are streamlining. We are moving forward." Marcus smiles, a brief predatory flash. "Immediately, Miss Vance." Elara's eyes meet Liam's for a long count, exactly 4 seconds. She expects something, an argument, a plea, a flicker of anger. She receives nothing. He does not defend the work. He does not mention his promise to her father. He does not explain that these engines are not failures, but the very soul of the company she now commands. He simply holds her gaze with a quiet, profound stillness that unnerves her more than any outburst could. Then he gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. It is an acknowledgement of her authority. It is an acceptance of her decree. He turns, walks to a small, battered toolbox sitting on a crate, and closes the lid. The click is the only sound. He picks it up and walks past them without a word, his footsteps steady and unhurried. Ilara watches him go, the set of his shoulders straight, his stride even. A strange, unsettling feeling lodges in her chest. It feels like she has just broken something important, without knowing what it was. "Good riddance," Marcus mutters beside her. Ilara does not answer. She continues to stare at the empty space where the quiet man had stood. The office is on the 45th floor, a glass box suspended over the city. Ilara Vance stands at the window, looking down at the traffic flowing like metallic blood cells through the city's arteries. It has been 3 days since she ordered Warehouse 7 cleared. The scrap manifests are on her desk, signed and processed. It was a clean, decisive action, the kind of action a CEO is supposed to take. So why does it feel like a mistake? She keeps seeing his eyes. They were not angry. They were not defeated. They were patient, as if he were watching a child make a foolish, predictable error. She turns from the window and sits at her father's desk. It is a massive thing of mahogany and steel, a throne she does not yet feel worthy of. Everything in this office, in this company, is a reminder of him. His portrait on the wall, his collection of antique sextants, the faint scent of his cigar smoke that even the cleaners cannot completely erase. She is trying to honor his legacy, but she no longer knows what that legacy is. Marcus told her it was about innovation, about pushing forward, about shedding the sentimental weight of the past. It sounded right. It sounded logical. But her father was not a purely logical man. He was a man of intuition, of gut feelings, of loyalty that sometimes defied balance sheets. He would never have kept a warehouse of junk just for sentiment. There was a purpose, and the man, O'Connell. Her father's journals, which she has been reading every night, are filled with mention of a Liam. Liam sees the truth in the metal. Liam solved the resonance issue, a stroke of pure genius. Liam is the only one I trust with the core designs. She had assumed this Liam was some long-departed senior engineer, a figure from the company's past. She never connected him to the quiet man in the dusty warehouse. A storm is rolling in off the Atlantic. The sky darkens, the color of a fresh bruise. Ilara needs to clear her head. She leaves the office, ignoring the pile of reports on her desk. An hour later, she is at the helm of the Legacy, her father's 42-foot cabin cruiser. It's a powerful, beautiful machine, but she knows it only superficially. She knows how to start it, how to steer it. She does not know its heart. The wind picks up, whipping spray over the bow. The sea turns from gray to a churning, angry black. She should turn back, but she pushes the throttle forward, a reckless impulse to outrun the disquiet in her mind. Then it happens. A shudder runs through the hull, followed by a high-pitched whine from the engine room, then a sickening clunk and silence. The boat loses power, wallowing in the rising swells. The silence is absolute. Save for the howl of the wind and the slap of water against the fiberglass, she tries the radio. Nothing but static. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to prickle at the edges of her composure. She is alone adrift, in a boat she does not understand, in a storm that is growing worse by the minute. For 30 minutes, she is tossed by the waves. Rain lashes down, cold and relentless. Through the sheets of rain, she sees a light. A single, steady light, bobbing in the distance. It grows closer, resolving into the shape of a small, sturdy fishing trawler. It's an old boat, built for work, not for leisure, its hull painted a practical, no-nonsense dark blue. The name on its bow becomes visible as it draws alongside. Resilience. A figure in dark rain gear is at the helm. He cuts his engine, and his boat nudges against hers with an expert gentleness that speaks of 1,000 hours on the water. He pushes back his hood. It is him, Liam O'Connell. He looks at her, then at her dead vessel, and his expression is the same as it was in the warehouse. Quiet, steady, unsurprised. He does not say, "You look like you're in trouble." He does not say, "What are you doing out here in this weather?" He says, "I'll pass you a line." His voice is calm, a low anchor in the chaos of the storm. She fumbles with the rope he throws, her fingers cold and clumsy. He secures the two boats together with swift, efficient knots. Then he looks at her, really looks at her, and seems to see past the CEO to the frightened woman underneath. "There's a child on board," he says, his voice a little louder over the wind. "My daughter. We're going to tow you to my inlet. It's closer and safer than the marina." He doesn't ask for permission. He states the reality of the situation. Inside his boat's small, warm cabin, a little face is pressed against the glass. Maya. She is wearing a bright yellow raincoat, a beacon of color in the monochrome storm. As he begins the slow, careful process of towing the massive cruiser, Elara sees the girl open the cabin door a crack. "Daddy?" a small voice calls out. "It's okay, Maya," he calls back. "Just helping." The girl looks at Elara, her gaze as direct and unnerving as her father's. Then she turns and disappears back into the warmth of the cabin. A moment later, she re-emerges, carefully carrying a metal thermos. She opens the door again and holds it out. Liam takes it from her, unscrews the cap, and pours a steaming, dark liquid into the lid. He leans across the gap between the boats and holds it out to Elara. "Hot chocolate," he says. She takes it. The plastic is warm against her frozen hands. She drinks. It's sweet and rich, and the warmth spreads through her chest, a small act of grace in the heart of the storm. She looks over at the Resilience. Through the cabin window, she sees the girl say something to her father. He nods, a small smile touching his lips for the first time. He looks back at Elara. "My daughter says you shouldn't worry," he says, his voice carrying easily across the water. "She says I can fix any engine, even the broken ones." The words are simple, a child's innocent boast. But they land on Elara with the force of an indictment. She thinks of the engines in Warehouse 7, the ones she had declared broken and sent to be destroyed. The tow to his inlet is slow and methodical. Liam handles his small boat with an artist's precision, compensating for the weight of her dead cruiser angling against the swells. He moors them at a private dock at the base of a steep cliff. A single light burns from the house at the top. "The storm will pass by morning," he says, coiling his ropes. "I'll look at your engine then." "You don't have to do that," she says, the words feeling inadequate. "The boat is in my way," he answers, without malice. "It is a simple statement of fact, and you can't stay here." He helps her out of her boat and onto the solid wood of the dock. Maya is waiting, holding a large umbrella. She stands close to her father, one hand clutching his pant leg. "Thank you," Elara says to both of them. Liam just nods. Maya offers her a small, shy smile. The next morning, the world is washed clean. The sun is bright, the air crisp. Elara wakes up on a couch in Liam's small, quiet house. A thick wool blanket is tucked around her. The smell of coffee and toast is in the air. She finds him in the kitchen. Maya is at the table again, this time drawing a boat in a storm. He pours her a mug of coffee without asking. "I looked at your engine," he says, leaning against the counter, "and the primary fuel injector is sheared, and the cooling pump is cracked. It wasn't the storm, it was going to fail eventually." He looks at her. "It's one of Marcus Thorne's designs, isn't it? The T-series." She nods, surprised he would know. "They run too hot," he says simply. "The materials can't handle the thermal stress. It's a design flaw." He says it like he's describing the weather, a plain and simple truth. "The company has invested millions in the T-series," she says, a defensive edge to her voice. "We have a major military contract, pending on its performance." Liam takes a slow sip of his coffee. He does not say, "That's a mistake." He does not need to. He just looks out the window at her crippled, expensive boat. Later, back in her office, the phrase echoes in her mind, a design flaw. She pulls up the performance reports for the T-Series engines. They are glowing. Efficiency, power, reliability, all's stellar. Signed by Marcus Thorne. But Liam's quiet certainty conflicts with Marcus's polished data. She finds the manifest from the scrapyard. Her eyes scan the list of items destroyed. Engine prototype, serial, VNC01. Engine prototype, serial, VNC002. She cross-references the serial number with the files from her favorite server. She finds a locked folder labeled Archive. The password prompt appears. She tries her birthday, access denied. She tries her mother's name, access denied. She tries the company's founding date. Access denied. On a hunch, she types the name of Liam's deceased wife, which she found in a stray note in her father's journal. Anna. Access granted. The folder contains a single document, the original test data for VNC-01. The numbers are astonishing. More efficient, more durable, and more powerful than Marcus's new T-Series. There's a note at the bottom, in her father's digital handwriting. The foundation, the future, in Liam's hands. A cold dread begins to bloom in her stomach. She needs to talk to someone who was there, someone who knew them both. The name comes to her from the company's service archives, Arthur Jensen, a master machinist, retired 3 years ago, her father's oldest friend at the company. She finds him in a small, cluttered machine shop in the city's old port district. The air smells of cutting fluid and hot metal. Arthur is an old man with hands stained by a lifetime of work. He is turning a piece of brass on a lathe, his movements economical and precise. He shuts off the machine when he sees her. "Elara Vance," he says, wiping his hands on a rag. He does not smile. "You look like your father, but you have your mother's eyes. I need to ask you about a project," she says, getting straight to the point. "The VNC engine series." Arthur's face, "Ancient history," he says, turning back to his lathe. "And about Liam O'Connell." He stops. He turns back to her, his eyes sharp. "What about him? My father trusted him." "Your father wasn't a fool," Arthur says. "He knew the difference between a man who builds things and a man who sells things. The implication hangs in the air between them. I may have made a mistake," Elara admits, the words feeling like stones in her mouth. "I ordered the prototype scrapped." Arthur stares at her for a long, painful moment. He sighs, a deep, weary sound. "Your father and Liam," he begins, his voice low. "They weren't boss and employee. They were partners. They built those engines together, in that warehouse, after hours. It was their secret. The VNC series was 10 years ahead of its time. It was going to be Robert's true legacy." "What happened?" she asks. "Life happened," Arthur says, his gaze distant. "Liam's wife, Anna, was killed. A car accident. Left him with little Maya, just a baby then. He couldn't be the chief designer your father wanted him to be. Couldn't travel. Couldn't live in boardrooms. He chose his daughter. Your father understood. He made Liam a promise. 'Just keep the work safe, son. Be its guardian.' Liam promised he would." Arthur looks at her, his eyes filled with a deep, sorrowful disappointment. "He kept his promise. You broke your father's." The words hit her with a physical force. She leaves the shop, her composure shattered. That evening, she drives. She doesn't know where she is going until she finds herself on the winding, coastal road leading to his house. She parks her car 100 yards away and walks toward the soft light spilling from his workshop. The big boathouse door is open to the cool night air. She stays in the shadows, watching. Liam is inside, working on her boat's engine, which he has hoisted onto a stand. He moves with a quiet, focused grace. His hands, which she had only seen as stained with oil, are now revealed as instruments of incredible precision. He calibrates a sensor, his touch gentle, his focus absolute. Maya is there, sitting on a stool, watching him. "Why did that part break, Daddy?" she asks. "Because it was asked to do a job it wasn't designed for," he answers, not looking up. It got too hot and it got tired. He picks up a new component, one he has clearly machined himself. It gleams under the work light. This one won't get tired, he says. He fits the piece into the engine. It slides into place with a quiet, satisfying click. A perfect fit. In that moment, Elara understands. It's not about junk or sentiment. It's about integrity. The integrity of a design. The integrity of a promise. The integrity of a man. She has violated all of it. The final piece of the puzzle is waiting for her back at her father's house. In his study, behind a framed chart of the Newfoundland coast, is a small wall safe she had forgotten about. The key from his journal. She had dismissed it as a key to a piece of furniture. Now she retrieves it from her purse. The key is cold in her hand. It slides into the lock. It turns. The heavy steel door swings open. Inside is not money or jewelry. It is a single sealed leather folio. Her name is on it, in her father's familiar, strong script. Her hands are trembling as she opens it. It contains the trinity of truths. First, a sheaf of internal memos. Memos from Marcus Thorne to the head of testing, ordering him to manipulate the data on the T-Series engines. Reports showing how he systematically sabotaged the final tests of the VNC series years ago, creating minor failures he could blame on the design to shelve it and push his own inferior project forward. It is a portrait of years of quiet, patient treachery. Second, the original, hand-drawn blueprints for the VNC 001. On the bottom, in the box for lead designer, are two names, Robert Vance and Liam O'Connell. They are signed and dated. Third and last is a letter, my dearest Elara. If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you are trying to find your way. I am sorry I did not prepare you better. I wanted to protect you from the ugliness of this business. Know this, the heart of this company is not in the boardroom. It is in the workshop. It is in the hands of the creators. The best of them is Liam O'Connell. He is more than an engineer. He is an artist. The VNC engines are our shared masterpiece, but his greatest creation is the life he has built for his daughter. He sacrificed his ambition for his integrity.
A rare trait.
There are wolves in this company, Elara, men like Marcus Thorne who see only profit, not purpose. Do not trust their easy answers. Trust the work, trust the metal, and if you are ever truly lost, trust Liam. He knows the way back. Tears stream down her face, silent and hot. The grief for her father is now mixed with a profound, suffocating shame. She drives through the rain, back to the house on the cliff. She doesn't knock. She walks straight to the workshop. Liam is still there, cleaning his tools. Maya is gone, presumably put to bed. He looks up as she enters, his expression calm, as if he has been expecting her. I know, she says, her voice breaking. I found my father's letter. I know everything. She stands before him, stripped of her authority, of her pride. I am so sorry, she whispers. He finishes wiping a wrench and hangs it on its proper hook. He turns to face her fully. Why didn't you say anything? She asks, her voice pleading. In the warehouse. You let me do it. You let me destroy it all. He looks at her for a long time, his eyes searching her face. Because you didn't know who I was, he says, his voice quiet but firm. And because you were his daughter. Arguing with you would have been a dishonor to him. My promise was to protect the work, so I did. But it's gone, she cries. I sent it to the scrapyard. He walks to the back of the workshop, to a large object covered by a heavy, oil-stained tarp. The same kind of tarp from the warehouse. He pulls it back. There, gleaming under the lights, is the VNC 001. Intact. Perfect. I only made one promise, he says, to protect the work. The scrapyard owner is an old friend. He owed me a favor. The others are gone. But I kept the first one, the archive. Relief and shame war within her. A small sound comes from the doorway. Maya stands there in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Is the lady sad? She asks her father. Liam goes to her and lifts her into his arms. She's okay, little bird, he says softly. Maya looks at Elara. She wriggles out of her father's arms, walks over to a small workbench and picks up a piece of paper. It's her drawing from the morning. The boat in the storm, with a bright sun now shining in the corner. She walks to Elara and holds it out. A gift, an offering of peace. Elara kneels down and takes the drawing from the small hand. Her composure finally breaks. A single sob escapes her. Maya reaches out a tiny hand and pats her on the arm, a gesture of solemn 7-year-old comfort. It's okay. Daddy can fix it. The call comes 2 days later. It's the Pentagon liaison for Vance Marine. The T-Series engine in the prototype patrol boat they are testing has suffered a catastrophic failure. A small fire, an emergency shutdown. The contract, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, is on hold. They have given Vance Marine 30 days to present a viable alternative, or the contract goes to their competitor. Marcus Thorne is in a panic. He calls for emergency meetings, for damage control, for public relations statements. Elara is calm. She walks into the boardroom, where Marcus is pacing. I have a solution, she says. That afternoon, she is back at Liam's workshop. She lays out the situation, the failed contract, the 30-day deadline. We need the VNC-01, she says. We need to get it on a test bench and prove it to them. Liam looks at the engine, then back at her. It hasn't been run in 5 years, he says. It needs to be completely stripped, inspected, and reassembled. Every seal, every gasket, every replaced. Can you do it? She asks. We can, he corrects her gently. If you're willing to get your hands dirty, for the next 3 weeks, the workshop becomes their world. Elara Vance, the CEO, trades her designer suits for overalls. She learns the names of tools she has never seen before. She learns the smell of grease and the satisfying heft of a torque wrench. She hands him tools. She cleans parts. She listens. He works with an unwavering focus, taking the engine apart piece by piece, laying each component out in perfect order on clean cloths. He explains every part to her. The function of the variable geometry turbocharger he designed, the reason for the specific alloy in the turbine blades. They work late into the night, fueled by coffee and a shared, unspoken purpose. Maya often brings them sandwiches, watching them with a quiet approval. In these long hours, a new respect is forged between them. Elara sees the genius her father wrote about. Liam sees the woman her father believed she could be. On the 27th day, it is done. The VNC-001 is reassembled, cleaned, and mounted on a test stand they have jury-rigged in the workshop. Are you ready? He asks. She nods, her heart pounding. He primes the fuel pump, checks the connections one last time, and hits the ignition. The engine turns over once, twice, and then roars to life. It is not a loud, angry sound. It is a deep, powerful, and perfectly balanced hum. The sound of integrity, the sound of a promise kept. The day of the board meeting arrives. Elara enters the room, cool and composed. Marcus Thorne is already there, looking haggard. The other board members are grim. Elara, this is a disaster, one of them says. The Thorne engine is a bust. We're finished. No, we're not, she says, her voice clear and steady. She places a folder in front of each board member. What you have before you, she begins, is proof of a decade of fraud and industrial sabotage perpetrated by our Chief Operating Officer, Marcus Thorne. Marcus goes pale. This is outrageous. Elara, you're overwrought. Am I? She says, her voice dropping to an icy calm. She systematically lays it all out. The falsified T-Series data, the memos proving he ordered it, the sabotage of the original VNC tests. She finishes by placing a copy of her father's letter on the projector. The room is silent as they read. And the engine he tried to bury, Elara continues. The design he stole from my father and his partner, it is not a failure. It is our future. She nods toward the back of the room. The door opens. Liam O'Connell walks in. He is wearing clean work pants and a simple button-down shirt. He does not look at the board. He does not look at Marcus. He stands silently against the back wall, his hands clasped behind his back. His presence is a testament, more powerful than any speech. Mr. O'Connell, Ilara says, her voice softening. Is the VNC-01 engine viable? Liam meets her eyes from across the room. It always was, he says. The two words land with the weight of absolute truth. Marcus sputters, a flurry of denials and accusations. But no one is listening. The vote is unanimous. Marcus Thorne is terminated, effective immediately. Security guards appear at the door to escort him from the building. A motion is passed to open a full legal investigation into his actions. Another motion is passed. Liam O'Connell is offered the position of Chief Design Engineer and head of a new independent R&D division with full autonomy. Liam says nothing. He just watches Ilara. After the meeting, the room clears. Only Ilara and Liam remain. They walk together in silence out of the boardroom and toward the elevators. The silence is different now. It is not empty, it is full. In the concrete quiet of the parking garage, they stop by her car. The board's offer is real, she says. Whatever you want, a full lab, a team, a salary to match. He looks around the garage at the expensive cars in their numbered slots. My life is there, Ilara, he says, his gaze distant, toward the coast. With Maya in my workshop. He is not rejecting her. He is stating a fact. She understands he cannot be pulled into her world, so she will have to find a way to enter his. I know, she says, the new R&D division. I was thinking of basing it out of the old port district, closer to the water, closer to the real work. A small smile touches his lips. I'll need a good machinist, he says. I know a guy named Arthur who might be interested, she smiles back. A real smile. I'll run it by the new CEO, she says. A week later, a small, custom-machined object appears on her desk. It's a single turbine blade from the VNC-001, polished to a mirror finish and mounted on a small block of walnut. It is heavy, cool, and perfectly smooth. There is no note, none is needed. It is a symbol of the work, of trust, of a new beginning. 3 months pass. The Vance Marine Skunk Works, as the press has dubbed it, is operational in a refurbished warehouse near Arthur's shop. It is a place of noise and creation, not memos and meetings. The Pentagon has seen the VNC engine perform. They are ecstatic. The contract is signed, larger than before. Vance Marine is not just saved, it is reborn. On a bright Saturday afternoon, a new boat cuts through the water off the coast. It is sleek and fast, powered by the first production model of the VNC engine. Ilara is at the helm. She is wearing jeans and a simple jacket. She looks relaxed, happy. Liam stands beside her, watching the coastline, his hand resting on the throttle. Maya is sitting on the forward deck, her face turned up to the sun, her laughter carried on the wind. The three of them, a new kind of family. Later, as dusk settles, they are docked at Liam's inlet. The sky is a wash of purple and orange. Maya is asleep in the forward cabin, tucked under the same wool blanket that had once covered Ilara. Ilara and Liam stand on the deck, leaning against the rail. They are not touching, but the space between them is charged with a quiet intimacy. The only sound is the gentle slap of water against the hull and the distant cry of a gull. She looks at him, at his strong profile outlined against the fading light. He turns his head and looks at her. In his eyes, she sees the same stillness she saw in the warehouse. But now she understands it. It is not emptiness. It is depth. He does not say he is glad she is here. She does not say she is not leaving. They just stand together in the quiet of the evening, looking out at the endless horizon. The future is an unspoken promise, hanging in the cool, salt-scented air between them.